The worst drought in 5 years is creeping across the Caribbean, prompting officials around the region to brace for a bone-dry summer. From Puerto Rico to Cuba to the eastern Caribbean island of St. Lucia, crops are withering, reservoirs are drying up, and cattle are dying, while forecasters worry that the situation could only grow worse in the coming months. Thanks to El Nino, a warming of the tropical Pacific that affects global weather, forecasters expect the hurricane season that began in June to be quieter than normal, with a shorter period of rains. Puerto Rico is among the Caribbean islands worst hit by the water shortage, with more than 1.5 million people affected by the drought so far, according to the U.S. National Drought Mitigation Center. Officials in Cuba say 75% of the island is enduring a drought that has killed cattle and destroyed thousands of hectares of crops, including plantains, citrus, rice, and beans. Recent heavy rains in Cuba in some areas have alleviated the problem somewhat, but all 200 government-run reservoirs are far below capacity, reports say. Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, says the European Union Commission's recent blacklisting of St. Kitts and Nevis, along with 29 other developing nations for not doing enough to fight tax evasion, is hypocritical. Prime Minister Harris made the assertion on June 23rd during an address at a CARICOM regional forum held in Antigua. He said the European Commission's blacklisting of 14 Caribbean jurisdictions as non-transparent and uncooperative tax havens takes the cake for its arbitrariness and hypocrisy. Dr. Harris said the blacklisting could have far-reaching consequences for small island developing states. The government of St. Kitts Nevis has formally written to the EU to ask for the country's removal from the blacklist, which the government says clearly does not reflect the country's continued adherence and commitment to international standards on transparency and exchange of information for tax purposes. Around 250,000 people deemed to be Haitian descendants residing in the Dominican Republic face deportation, although they have never known any other place to call home. Former CARICOM ambassador to Haiti, Earl Huntley, has denounced the decision of the Dominican Republic to implement a policy that denies citizenship to Haitian descendants born in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean country.
One of the problems with that is that over the years, systematically, people born of Haitian descent in the DR have been denied their documents, so that if you were black of Haitian descent and you went to get a birth certificate, you were not, it wasn't given to you, so that people don't even have those basic documents. That matter went to the Inter-American Court of Justice in 2005. Two Dominican girls went to the Inter-American Court, and the Inter-American Court ruled in their favor that the DR had to give them their birth certificates, but that has not worked in practice. The deadline given for people to register was Thursday the 18th of June, and that after that it meant that those people who had not registered would be deported.
In September 2013, the Dominican Republic's Constitutional Court effectively ruled to retroactively deny any Dominican citizenship to anyone born after 1929 without at least one parent of Dominican descent. The ruling leaves those who fall outside of those guidelines illegal.
The Interior Minister of the DR said last Wednesday, that's just the day before, that all was in place to effect deportation. That it was going to be happening in two ways. If you could go voluntarily. If not, then they would then deport you forcefully. It's a national conference, if you want to call it, called by the government on last Friday to see how they could prepare this. They have now said that they have plans in place to receive people. They have centers in critical areas across the long frontier, because it traverses the entire island. So the Haitian government has told its people, well, let us see what we can do, let us welcome them as much as possible in dignity.
Despite a year-long registration period to give many a chance to sort out their paperwork, reports say only 300 people have gotten papers. The policy has drawn the ire of blocs within the Caribbean and the censor of humanitarian organizations worldwide. And finally, in this week's Caribbean News segment, The Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, ECTEL, says it has commenced engagement with Cable and Wireless to address the impact of its merger with Columbus Communications Limited on member states. In a statement issued from its Castries headquarters, ECTEL says it has written to Cable and Wireless with proposals for modifications of its existing licenses in order to address a number of potential negative impacts of the merger on the telecommunications markets in its member states. A meeting to discuss these and other matters has been planned for July. ECTEL has outlined a number of concerns it says have been highlighted by the members of the ECTEL Council of Ministers. These include open access and wholesale cost for access to networks, fibers, poles, ducts and facilities at cost-based prices, offering customers the option to migrate to the most favorable existing service plan in the market, treatment of the new merged entity as a dominant provider in relation to fixed broadband, fixed voice and cable television subscriber service, guaranteed access and protection for third parties, and compliance with regulations in respect of equal and indirect access. That's it for the JTV Caribbean News segment. And still to come on JTV News. Residents shared their expectations of the NDP's second term in office, and Education Minister Honorable Myron Walwyn calls for electoral reform.